Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Unlock the Middle's AP Roundtable. I'm Dean Packard. I'm the principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts, and this gets me excited when you have a group of future leaders in a room talking about educational topics through their lens, especially from an AP lens. Man, nothing's better than that. Alongside of me, I have my good friend and co-host of Unlock the Middle, Principal Chris Starcheski of Dudley Middle School. Great to see you, Chris. How are you tonight, my friend? Looking forward to a fun night.
Doing great, Dean. Thanks for the intro tonight on the show. Always talking ed leadership, especially as the first of my several summer vacations is coming to an end, is a good thing because it gives us an opportunity to kind of prime the pump and really get ready to hit the ground running when we get in. So I'm really looking forward to hearing some perspectives from some new friends and colleagues out there on our screen tonight to get a little bit of an understanding about how I can do my job better. And also help others be better at the same time. So this is going to be awesome, Dean.
So for a quick disclaimer, listen, if you're out there and you want to be part of this group, reach out to us. We got Josh Tovar. He's hitting us right now. He's on our principals group. But we want to hear from you. We want a mix of people in the group here. We want women in leadership. We want men in leadership. We want anybody who wants to get on here to tell their story and really help people grow organically. We want to hear from you. So, Chris, back to you, man.
Hey, you know what? There's not a lot more to say after that. So AJ Bianco, AP extraordinaire out of New Jersey, looking forward to having you take the reins tonight and lead us home as we sit down and talk about difficult conversations, choosing the right questions, and really just, how key foundational leadership concepts can be ingrained.
Yeah, Dean, Chris, thanks so much for allowing all of us to be part of this. I think as assistant principals, we are excited to have this roundtable. We can share our own ideas. I think, we always say leadership is lonely, right? Especially building leadership. So here we go. We got a great group of guys here. I'm AJ Bianco, Vice Principal, Eastbrook Middle School in New Jersey. Just finished my first year and already hitting the ground running for year two. You see the gentleman here, and we miss you, Bethany. Hopefully we get you back on the show. I know you're traveling out there in the West and, doing some big things and some new endeavors. So whenever you're ready to get settled back with us, we're happy to have you. So let's go around real quick. Ryan, you're above me, so I'm going to kick it up to you. Introduce yourself, and then we'll just kick it over to whoever's next to you.
Hello. Ryan Scott here. I am the assistant principal at Webster County High School in lovely Webster County, Kentucky, which is on the western side of Kentucky. I am also the host of the Big Ed Idea podcast. So anybody out there that's got a big idea of education, hit me up.
Charlie Stone here from the Cityview ISD in Wichita Falls, Texas. I'm the assistant principal at the elementary school, going on year 3. Here to make a difference and here to change some lives.
That's right.
I'm Jeff Burr. I am from Mooresville, North Carolina, coming out of Pine Lake Preparatory. I'm the lower school elementary assistant principal, and I'm excited to be here with you guys tonight.
Hey everybody, how we doing? I'm Mike Lavelle. I'm the assistant principal at Oxford Middle School. Been assistant principal for about 10 going on 11 years now. Great to be back with everybody here today. Exciting to hear everybody again.
Hey guys, I'm Kevin Lewis coming from Crossville, Tennessee. I'm the assistant principal at Frank P. Brown Elementary. This is my second year. I don't know if COVID year counts, but we might count that as a third year.
Yeah.
There we go.
Amen.
Anyways, I'm here to help my kids out a little bit better.
Love it. Hey, I'm Dean Packard, principal at Charlton Middle School. I spent 6 years as an assistant principal at my school, so I love what I did when I was there, and I'm super excited to be with all you guys tonight. Kick it over to my good friend, Chris Starcheski.
Hey, yeah, Chris Starcheski, principal at Dudley Middle School here in Dudley, Massachusetts, my hometown, but I was assistant principal years ago. It feels like an ancient time ago, right, Dean? Back at Oak Middle School in Shrewsbury before I took over there as principal back in the mid-2000s. Great time as an AP because it, always allows you a lens into instructional and educational leadership but also keeps you a little bit closer to the dance floor. And I'm not just talking about Friday nights at the middle school dances. You're down, you're more rubbing the elbows, you're in the mix and in the know. We try to do that as principals, but bless you all for doing what you do. I mean, elementary, middle school, elementary AP. Yeah, I don't know how. This is going to be great. AJ, kick it away, baby.
Yeah, so let's get this thing started. So as the assistant principals, I think, we're in the mud. We have so many different roles. We have so many different titles. We do so many different jobs, whether it's – I had a superintendent who said it was the chicken nuggets to the, ordering of supplies for the entire school. So we do everything, right? So I think one of the things that we kind of deal with is difficult conversations. And I think for us, difficult conversations happen with our staff, happens with families, happens with students. So let's start with that. How do we have those difficult conversations? How do you start those conversations? What do you look for? Do you shy away from difficult conversations? I know that's something out there for a lot of people who might be a little bit of the introverts who want to be leaders. Those difficult conversations may scare them. So what advice do you have for those people? So Ryan, I'm gonna kick it to you.
Yeah, thank you. So first, we are in the people business. First and foremost, we are in, I like to say we serve first, we teach second. So, having those tough conversations is most likely not what all of us went into this business for. Nobody likes to, at least I don't like to have the really tough conversations with people, because if you're on my staff, I value you. I think of you as a part of my family. But then again, I also 100% believe in tough love. But in order to have the tough love, you got to have the love first. And what I mean by that is you got to take the time and you got to put the effort into building those relationships, being vulnerable with your people, letting them know who you are, letting them know your mistakes. And hopefully, if you build a good foundation of that, then when you need to have those tough conversations, they will know that it's coming from your heart, and not from, because you sit in the comfy chair across from them.
Ryan, so true. And those relationships from the heart, they have to know that we care, right? Just like whether it's students, whether it's teachers, whether it's families, they have to know that we're there to care for them and we're take care of them. And it's not just we're having difficult conversations because we are the quote unquote boss, which I hate that term. Charlie, what about you? How about you with the difficult conversations? How do you handle that?
Well, I think it starts from day one. We pride ourselves in taking care of our staff. We spend a lot of time boosting staff morale. We do it in many ways. We do constant affirmations, sticky notes. We do handwritten cards. Handwritten cards go a long way. We do things that build these relationships with our teachers. So when we have to sit down and have a difficult conversation, they know you really care. But normally when we have to have a conversation like this, it's going to be a tough one. And it's also, it's like with a kid or family or a teacher or anything, you have to be able to separate the behavior from the person. Going back to being a teacher, an administrator gone on to me, I felt like, well, I'm a bad teacher. I'm not doing my job, which not doing your job may be the case, but you have to affirm, make sure that, it's not about who you are as a person. It's just, this is what we need you to do at that given time.
Yeah. Before we get to you, Jeff, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm going to want to stop you. But Hannah had a great one here. It says it's like with parent contacts. Make the positive contacts first, so the tough conversations will be easier later. Absolutely true, Hannah. All right, Jeff, take it. Sorry.
No, yeah, I totally get it. And that's actually the key thing. If you're making a phone call home on a positive phone call right away, that's going to set the ground running for making those difficult phone calls later on. And so again, like Ryan and Charlie. I think those relationships that you establish are key and critical. And so I was a high school teacher before I went to the elementary school, and so I switched. But I was also a basketball coach, and so I kind of treat it the same way I would treat my players, in terms of there are some I know I have to handle with more kid gloves, whereas others I can give that tough love. And so, but me having those relationships and knowing how those people are going to respond based off of the feedback that I'm giving, it's going to be makes it 10 times easier. And the same with parents and same with kids. At times I kind of get right to the point with the parent in terms of, okay, here's the situation that I had. Because once we pull that Band-Aid off, then it's much easier to get that conversation going and into the right direction.
I love that. Mike, take it away.
Yeah, sure. So it's the same kind of thing that everybody's been saying. I think you guys can all hear this line come out of your mouth. My line sounds like this. Hey, how you doing? This is Mike Lavelle from Oxford Middle School, the assistant principal. Do you have a second? And you hear the gasp on the other end. Sometimes the first time in a kid's whole career, all the way through to 7th grade, that they've heard from the assistant principal, so you really got to kind of gauge the other end of the conversation. And that's where those relationship pieces come in. I always get right to the matter. Like, here's what happened. This is what went down. This is how I know. And this is what he or she is saying happened, but they're the only ones that are saying that. Everybody else, so corroboration, right? Everybody else is saying this. So here's what we had to do. Here's the punitive measure. Here's the restorative practice that we did. And here's what we're going to do moving forward. I always assure the parent that there is, everybody's safe, everybody's okay. Because after you hear that first gasp, the first thing, and you guys are parents out there, the first thing is somebody hurt. Is somebody, they're thinking the worst, like, oh my God, I got to get down there. Everything's okay. They're perfectly all right. They're back in class. Those are key kind of bring the level down here a minute. We just make a mistake. Kids in middle school are going to make mistakes. We're here for them before the mistake, during the mistake, after the mistake. And we're going to keep that in line. A lot of times, especially if it's like a physical altercation or something like that, they just want to know what's going to happen to the other kid. And we all know we can't do that. And if they keep pressing, that, my line is kind of, I'm not trying to be difficult about this. I just have to protect everybody's privacy. And I can assure you as a school, that other student has consequences, but your son or daughter's needs as the victim are more important. And that's the restorative practice piece. And not only is it the truth in my building, but it's also, really reassuring for the parent to hear that their needs are also being taken into account. Because we know from research, as soon as you start the punitive measures really do nothing but retaliate, right? And retaliation is going to happen. It's not something that works anymore. They're accountability pieces. We have to do them. We can share with other parents that way, but most importantly, the supporting of the victim. And I think that kind of approach, once you do it plenty of times, some of our frequent flyers, man, you guys know you're on a first name basis with those parents. Like, you're on a first name basis. Like, hey,
why are you calling?
Exactly. Yeah, what's up, Mike? I'm like, okay, what's going on? This is what went down today. But at the same time, they're, and those type of parents are awesome too, because a lot of them have your back. It's not the first time at middle school.
Absolutely.
Not the first time they hear from the school. Some, it's the first time, and they are not in a space. Others, that's where it's kind of at. So that's kind of how I take it. And those are the lines that we all have get easier and easier as the year goes on. But they're never easy on that victim end, because you're really, as an AP, safety, security, climate, culture, you want to, really hear I'm going to keep everybody safe. We're not. We can't promise you that. I can't promise a parent that it's never going to happen again. I can't stop the words from coming out of somebody's mouth. I say that all the time, and it's true. So keeping it real, keeping the real talk, the truth there. We'll do everything we can to protect them and move on.
See, Mike, on the flip side, when the parents get those phone calls, when we get those phone calls and the secretary says you have so-and-so on the line, then we take the breath and we have to gasp. Yeah. Oh, no, what did we do?
Here we go. Here it comes.
Exactly. Here we go.
A lot of times I'll tell my secretary, yeah, if so-and-so calls, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so calls, get me on the radio. I'll take the call. I need to talk to this person before we move on with the day.
There you go. Kevin, we'll throw it over to you. What do you do for difficult conversations?
Well, there's a couple of things that I would like to add to the relationship, because obviously that's tantamount to anything that we do. I would like to just give advice. Don't use the Oreo method. Don't make it sweet in the middle, hard. You know what I mean? Don't make it hard at first and sweet in the middle, and then just end it rough. And also, alternatively, don't start out complimentary and then end it complimentary as well, because they miss the point. They just hear that complimentary side of it. I also would like to add that we should use these as these difficult conversations. Look through them as in the context of the building side of it. We want to build children. We want to build relationships. We want to build parent involvement. We want to build teachers. Number one, especially those difficult conversations with teachers. We don't want them to go back to their classrooms and start stirring it up. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I want to put in there. Also, I want to say that when we're having these difficult conversations, we want to think about what's the end income first, or the outcome first. Do we want revenge, or do we want to reform the behavior? So that's kind of the way we look at it, where I'm at.
I like that. That outcome first is really something to keep in mind and think about.
From a principal's perspective, I just want to say what you guys are saying is absolutely phenomenal. And I think that you're spot on with what you're looking for. Remember, we are in the business of people. So, how you articulate the message back, your voice, your tone, your body language says a lot about how you're going to handle the situation. Again, if you add fuel to a fire, the fire just burns out of control. People make mistakes, and I love the comments that we're getting right here, and they're absolutely correct. Nobody is perfect, including administrators, whether it's an AP or a principal. So we got to remember the conversations are a necessity in our business, but the relationships that we cultivate are so super important ahead of time. And again, you're looking at three categories. You're looking at student tough conversations, you're looking at staff tough conversations, and parent tough conversations. And everybody shies away from those. That's not a normal thing to be able to do. You get that over time. You understand how to roll through it over time. When we do it as principals, tough conversations, we always call our AP in to sit there. We want our AP to listen. We want our AP to see how we navigate through that. And if we do that, we're leading towards that next level of understanding. So again, we want to make sure people feel comfortable. We want to understand the point of why we're talking to them. And we want to keep our body language and our voice to a level that's low and staying calm. Man, you do that stuff, you can get through it. And I always like to do those early in the morning, get them out of the way. Because I think normally when you start thinking about it, everybody fears having that confrontation. I mean, I don't know anybody maybe I know a couple people that like confrontation, maybe a couple. But at the end of the day, nobody really likes that stuff. Okay, nobody wins there. So, Chris, am I missing anything?
No, the only piece that I would add is, as we sit down and we talk about our learning recovery and the need for hard conversations at the classroom level around student learning, as the leaders, we don't want to go around having difficult conversations for the sake of having difficult conversations, but we want to model appropriate entry into a very high level, serious topic as often as we can. Focus on the mission, because we really need to, as APs, right? You're the first line of defense for the hot parent coming in. By the time the parent gets to the teacher, they've been cooled down, they've been taken care of, and they already know that there's a resolution in the works, right? We do these conversations for a living. We are the front line. We are that bulletproof vest, if you will, in the main office. And teachers don't always get that level of practice. And as we sit down and start talking about, standards-based learning and really being prescriptive about learning feedback, that can be a difficult conversation, because if it's presented in the wrong way, well, the teacher just told me I'm a fool, or the teacher, thinks I'm stupid, right? If they don't know how to enter into that conversation to show the student the light towards improvement, the difficult conversation is not going to get where it needs to be. So the only piece I could add to you guys here for that.
Just a quick note, if you guys are up on the stage right here, just mute yourself. I have a little bit of feedback going on right now. I just don't want the people out there to hear that. Perfect. Good stuff. Back to AJ.
Thank you, guys. No, thank you for everybody's answers. Those are fantastic. It's so important. I think for me, difficult conversations at the end, we always try to figure out, what is it going to look like? How is this going to end? And I'm always like a little tense, because I'm always afraid that the end result is going to be a teacher, parent, student anger at me. And that's not what we want to do. We talk about the relationships. So some of the difficult conversations that we lead to is always about instruction when we talk to our teachers. So for me, instructional leadership is kind of what I pride myself in. I love instruction. I love technology. I love all that stuff, and I want to improve my instructional leadership. So having the conversation that's going to improve that and improve my staff is something I kind of notice every day. So what's your role, everybody out here, as an instructional leader, and where do you want to improve? I'm going to go reverse this time. So Kevin, I'm going to start with you, and we'll go up to Mike.
Okay. My role as instructional leader is to look at the data before the teacher gets it and make sure that we're headed in the right way. We do that in several ways. We look at data from state districts testing through state testing, and then we come up with a plan. But we try to come up with a plan in conjunction with the teachers. That's the biggest part, is we come up with a plan and how they are going to attack our stated goal, and everything that we do has to go back to that stated goal, or these instructional techniques that we use are useless. We're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, and we're not using any kind of accountability for it. And so if we do it with the people that are actually in the front lines doing it, then they're taking ownership of that. And I believe that they'll perform 99% of the time. And I guess that's my role.
Yeah.
I love that. Ownership and accountability is so important, because we can only say a couple of things. It has to be enacted, it has to be done. Mike, what's your role? Where do you want to improve as instructional leader?
So yeah, instructional leadership, I can only explain in one kind of way, and it's a basketball analogy. It's the concept of like the point guard, right? You're bringing up the ball, and you don't always have to lead from the front, right? You're bringing up the ball as a point guard. You break down your defender. You don't always have to shoot. You can dish the ball to that open 3-point. You can set a pick. You can grab an offensive rebound, and not to mention the things you can do on the defensive end. You can support your staff and your leadership from so many different ways. It doesn't always have to be from the front. Right. So by the front, I mean, kind of leading from the front is that PD that we do where we stand up on that professional development day. And I've done things on like restorative practices and punitive measures on the professional development day. Right. And what I try to do is really tie in that live data, that, my lunch detention, the numbers of lunch detentions, office detentions, in-school suspensions. So it makes it real life. For this is what goes on here. And when you send a kid out of class, a lot of times you don't see it. I'll try to follow up the best I can, but these are the numbers that are coming through. And sometimes that doesn't work, like restorative versus punitive. And then, I do this like book study type of things, right? Where I read, what was it? The iGen, Dr. Janine Twininge, Why Today's Kids Are Growing Up Less Rebellious, More Tolerant, Less Happy, and Completely Unprepared for Adulthood. These are the kids in front of you, right? The iGen generation. And, that's kind of like the leading from the front. You're doing your whole, you're presenting, right? You're presenting that sort of thing. But to support, lead from the middle and lead from the back, I think is the role that I play more, that I like to play more, because I don't like to be on the stage all the time. It gets old. It gets repetitive. Teachers don't want to see you all the time. They want to hear expertise from other areas too, right? So the concept of kind of like bringing people in. So when my second year over at Oxford Middle, I had the Screenagers movie. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Screenagers, right? So it's growing up in the digital age, and then they have a sequel to that, Screenagers: The Next Chapter. And it's really, really good. And it's like we had our assemblies come in. I had to contact the people out there in California. We got the movie. We showed it to everybody, right, in the grade, on our grade levels, grade level by grade level. And then at night you have the community event. And you got to host that. That's where you're back out in front, but you're really kind of just supporting, like, okay, hey, check this out. And the feedback that you get from staff, that's what I want. Hey, how was that? What do you guys think? Was that pretty good? The community members, same thing. How was that? How's it going? Type of deal. And then you got, kind of, you can support with your consulting group. So like if you have connections to like consultants and things like that, TLC is a good one out here in Massachusetts. And she was an assistant superintendent from a nearby district, and she did a Boys in Mind conversation, because it's discipline, right? So I related it right to discipline, and that preventative discipline, and all of our boys are coming down to me more often than not. So this Boys in Mind kind of piece was an instructional piece, but it was also connected to discipline. So I was able to still stay in my lane. So that's kind of like leading from the front, the middle, and the back. And the middle and the back to support for everybody, I think that's as an AP, I think that's where my most comfortable position is.
I love that. I love that middle, the back. That's great. That support is so important. You don't want to be in the front all the time. I like that. Jeff, on you.
Hey, Mike, I love the fact that you used the basketball analogy. And I heard it was, I think Principal Al made a comment one time I heard where he said, it's all about the assists. We got to be more like Magic. We got to be willing to dish it off and give those teachers the front of the line, all the support and the celebrations that they deserve. And I do. I think as an instructional leader, for me, it's all about being in the trenches. We have to be in there with them and understand that if I'm going to ask for a new strategy to be implemented, I'm going to try it, even if it's at a staff meeting, because if they see me doing it, then hopefully that they're going to jump on and know, hey, at least he's trying as well, and that he's going to see the pluses and minuses to whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. And I think also the fact of, to me, they have to understand that it's okay to fail, and that it's not gonna be I get you. I think I heard it say fail is your first attempt in learning. And so as a result, it's the fact of, I want you to try this. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's okay. And that we can move on and try something different. When I was a teacher, I was going through some stuff with Discovery Education, and I had a principal come in and do an evaluation. And there was a lady from DE that was with me. It was the first time we were doing a lesson. I was doing an observation. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Why? If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, then he's going to tell me what I need to do better. And he's going to see things that I didn't see. And then we can adjust it for the next few classes." And so it's one of those aspects that I was comfortable with my principal to try those things. And I want my staff to be comfortable to try those aspects. So that way they know that I have their back and that we can work together to find the best solution for the kids.
Oh, Jeff, that's so important, man. The idea is it's okay to fail. The idea of comfort, the support that's there. I think if teachers have that and they know that we're there for them, they can try anything they want to. Everything is so much about an evaluation and a score these days that they're afraid to take those risks. So I like that you said that. Charlie, how about you? Your role as instructional leader.
I like that, Jeff. I like that a lot. You get that authentic feel, and there's not that fear of failure, or I'm going to get in trouble because I'm trying something new. I really like that. As far as an instructional leader for myself, this is an area where, we divvy up responsibilities. There's 3 people on our campus, and my primary responsibility has been the discipline. This year, I was fortunate enough to have an AP alongside me that helped with like the K through 2, and I did the 3 through 5. So it opened up some more time for me to sit in on some planning meetings with teachers, be in some PLCs, things of that nature. But this is a goal of mine going into next year, is if I want to be where I want to be as a principal and to lead in a campus one day, I've got to get better at the instructional stuff. But I think that starts with being in the trenches, like Jeff said, being in there with them, being there right beside them. I'm in a spot where at one time, I think like that first year I started, I was like the youngest person on campus. So I was in a tough spot as far as me being brought up as a kid, respect your elders. So I had to get over the fact of, hey, I'm going to have to go in here and tell these older ladies, or not older, but, older than me, that, to help them out, and so, but I've learned a lot from them. They've been great. I've learned a lot, and I kind of put it as, if I'm there with them and we're at the table and we're doing things together, they'll trust me when I do give them feedback.
I love that. You got to build that trust. You got to build that rapport. Way to go. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah. So you guys have all said some amazing things. And so I'm going to try and not say what some of you guys have already said. But for me, when I was in the classroom and I was in the trenches, my strength was definitely not the X's and O's, the pedagogy, the lesson planning. That was not my strength. So to me, it would be hypocritical for me to really go into a teacher's classroom and, try to look at those types of things. Now, having said that, I really come from I trust you until you give me a reason not to attitude. So my teachers are rock stars, and I'm going to think they're rock stars until their data starts to show differently. Now, if their data starts to show a slip, okay, then we're going to have those kind of conversations. But in the meantime, my job is to support them, to come in every day and make them feel as wonderful as possible, because we know, we build the climate, and if we make the climate, then they make the climate within their own room. And so, I don't look at my position so much as critiquing instruction or trying to show them how to improve their instruction. I think for the most part, they want to do that anyway. So if I give them the leeway and I give them the freedom, like I said, but I'm monitoring. And then if we need to have those conversations, then we'll have those conversations. But yeah, for the most part, like I said, my job is to check on my teachers every day. I walk around and give bathroom breaks. It is just to pop in, say hi to kids, say hi to teachers, let my teachers know I'm there for them. So like we said earlier, if we got to have those tough conversations, they know it's coming from a different place than somebody that's just been critiquing your lesson plans for the last year.
I think that's so important. I think that's why I love this job so much. Is the fact that we kind of can be anywhere. We can be with the families, we can be with the kids, we can be with the teachers, and we're building those relationships going forward.
I just want to add something if I could, and I love listening to you guys talk here. At the end of the day, and I love what Carrie said back a while ago, and it's letting your teachers shine. Let them shine is absolutely correct. A couple of notes that I took while you guys were speaking, because I love doing that, because you know what? When you hear people talk, it kind of makes your mind think in a different way. First and foremost, you got to understand that you're always coaching, leading and coaching. Okay, leading and coaching. You don't have a gotcha behind what you're doing. If you have a gotcha, you're not going to last long in this business. Okay, you want to remove emotion. You want to go to their room. You want to go to a teacher's room to hold a conversation. You don't want to call them into the principal's office, because you know what? I think that just adds a negative flair to it. You want to show that you were once a teacher. You want to be able to articulate that out. And what you do there. And another thing I really like to do is start off with 2 to 3 positives whenever you're talking to somebody. There's always something good about someone, even the toughest person that you have to remediate and get them to self-reflect. And then you come back at the end, which is that here's a one thing I want you to really work on, because I think it'll help you become better. Power is in that. Tons of power. And remember, as an ex-high school basketball coach myself, you're always coaching. You know what? You're not putting energy into the negatives. You're building the positives, and you're modeling everything that you want them to hear. Chris?
Yeah, I was only going to the point about maintaining the lens of the classroom teacher. You know, it's very easy for us to glom on to the pendulum that may be swinging, or the initiative that the district office is perpetuating, or DESE is coming down and saying, thou shalt focus on these data points, right? Well, we all know, well, you might not know, but I'm not a big fan of state standardized testing or things like that. But I think one of the most important elements is, and Hannah's comment was really powerful, admins should be pedagogically competent and instructional leaders. If they aren't instructional leaders, they are managers, not APs. That doesn't mean you need to be an expert of content. It means you need to be a learning and an instructional expert. You need to know how information is best presented to kids, how assessment can be best presented to kids, and how feedback can be garnered in both directions. And if you're able to give real critical feedback to your teachers, about those pieces, Dean and I always talk when we're hiring teachers, we don't look for necessarily content experts. I'm not looking for a math teacher with a degree from MIT. That's nice, but only if they've got the ability to relate to people, relate to kids, and be able to communicate in a way that it's understood. I was once called on the carpet by a girl named Paris at Burncoat Middle School in Worcester, and she said, "Mister, why you talk so rich?" And I was like, "I'm just using mathematical vocabulary, Paris. I was talking about an asymptote of a curve, as it approaches, a limit." And she said, "Stop talking so rich, mister. Just break it down the way we need to hear it." And I'm like, oh, that was a great anchor point for me. This 13-year-old girl is calling me on the carpet for using mathematical vocabulary, right? Well, I'll tell you what, that shifted my complete focus. And I had an assistant principal that year who also talked to me about relating feedback to students in different ways. Like, she picked up on it. She acknowledged my direct approach with some students and my kind of, candy sugarcoating approach with other kids. She said, just don't worry about that. Just go whole hog, let them hear it, because it's good information for them to hear. And that was one of the most powerful feedback components that I received from an evaluation. So don't think about anything as being too small and influential. Be courageous and have those conversations. And if you're not 100% confident in your thought, pose the feedback as a question and engage the teacher in conversation, because what they're going to do is they're going to justify their move or say, gosh, that move was absolutely atrocious. I thought I was going to go in this direction, but I really meant to go here. How would I do that differently in the future? It can open up a real rich conversation.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate that. Now, last question. This is something I think I think AP Carrie Porter here saw a script we were talking about. She's talking about meaningful questions can lead to greater growth, and that's what we're going to talk about here. This morning, I got an email from Brian Kite, who's motivational guy. I get his daily email, and in there, this kind of got me inspired for this question. He said, "The right questions lead to breakthrough answers." So when we talk about growth, how do you guys ask questions that guide your teachers to deeper thinking and to reflection? Now, I ask that because reflection for me is incredibly important. I think that's what makes us all better. We want to reflect constantly. Sometimes we reflect too much. Sometimes we reflect negatively. But when you think about reflection and deeper thinking with your teachers, what kind of questions do you ask? How do you go about asking those questions? And Ryan, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So, yeah, when I've got those teachers with me and we are, reflecting on a lesson or something, we always start with the positive. So, what did you think that went well? Okay, and then once they give me that, okay, why did it go well? And then once we talk about that, okay, what do you see, as an area of improvement? Like, what is something you could have done a little bit better? And then we take that question and we just go deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's way less of me talking and way more of me just facilitating the deeper dive into what the question is, because ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't really, at least in my opinion, doesn't really matter what I thought of the lesson. It's what the teacher thought of the lesson, because if they take it personally and they take it to heart, it's going to make a difference. If it's just me, what my takeaways, it wouldn't mean squat.
I appreciate that. I like that. It doesn't matter what we think. It's their lesson. They should be reflecting. We should not tell them what they should be doing for their students. We're just there to observe. Charlie, what kind of questions do you go to? How do you inspire?
I want to piggyback off Ryan. I think it's very important that you start, when you have that conversation, you start with something positive and you're specific, very specific. How did you feel this went? How do you feel about, what did you think? Letting them, questioning them in that manner, they roll with it, and then it engages a conversation where more questions are asked. You can have a stand to deliver teacher, which, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But, you may flip it around if you want to see something more engaging for students, how would you feel, if you were sitting in the classroom, would you be engaged in this? How would you teach this class if your kid was sitting in the front row? How would you approach that? Because sometimes it's monotonous. I mean, you get in a routine and you go through your routine every day, and it's and routine's good. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. Sometimes, when it comes down to time, you just gotta reiterate. This is where we want to be. This is where we want to go. This is the expectations. This is the vision. We want to make it fun for our kids. We had summer school. We just got done. We just closed summer school today. But seeing our teachers with those young students, I mean, they were playing, had like a deck of cards and playing math games and things, and the kids were engaged. And my first thought is like, why don't I see this more during the year? I know there's more kids in a classroom, obviously, but, seeing some of these great things, teachers are great. They're phenomenal. They're the lifeline of our schools. And, but questioning, definitely engaging in those conversations and trying to ask the right questions. That's what gets the learning and the thinking going. Because I make it a point to our teachers that it's a growth mindset. We're always learning. We're always trying to get better. Make sure that they know that from my end before I even go into a classroom, that I'm here for them, and I'm here to learn just like they are.
There you go, Charlie. It's perfect. Model that, and they can follow suit and keep learning too. Jeff, go ahead.
I think it sounds silly, but I go back, and Charlie said it as well. What if you to the teacher? What if you're that person? You're in your classroom. Are you enjoying what's going on? Because if you're not, then we need to find something that's to make it fun or make it more engaging. Because if you're bored, then chances are they're bored. And, and that's the one aspect, again, I think about my experience in the classroom. In the high school, I had teenagers looking at me, and if I saw the glassy eyes, chances are I knew I was probably in the same boat. So I had to change something. And so kind of relaying some of those experiences that I had. And although I'm working with the little ones, to me, I joke with the teachers. I was like, it's no different. The only difference between elementary and high school is the fact that the lower school or the elementary school kids just don't know that they're doing something wrong. It's the high school kids that know they shouldn't be doing what they are. But it comes down to the fact of, if I'm going around informally and giving feedback and and trying to help them out at that point, so that way when we do get to a formal observation, I can get them to be more reflective. And that doesn't really, they get a piece of paper, but usually I end that piece of paper with a question. I'm like, I don't want you to answer it now, but I want you to think about it. So that way you get some time and you get into a routine where you're thinking about, okay, what went well today, what didn't go well, how can I make an adjustment, whether it's next year if I try to use this lesson, or next week if I try something similar. And again, I think that goes with building the relationships, having the trust, understanding that I'm not there to go get you. I'm there to support you. And I want you just to be reflective and trying to figure out what's best and the next step for these young folks so that they can be successful.
Appreciate that. Always comes back to trust and relationships building. Mike, on you.
Yeah, Jeff said all you guys are hitting right in the nail, right on the head. I think it's important, like, just to pick up on the relationship piece. I think, and whenever we all immediately went right back to difficult conversations with staff. I could hear the eval talk. Right, this is after an observation. This is after something you just witnessed something. So what I do is, if I'm doing an evaluation and the timing has to be right and it has to lend itself, kind of right to, I try to always get in there at the beginning of the observation, because that first 10 to 12 minutes, we know prime time one, that's when they're primed for learning. This is showtime right now. My kids, 10 to 13 years old, you got about 12 to 13 minutes to get this in, right? Then there's that intermediate piece, and then prime time too. So I try to get in there right at the beginning. I try to talk, just write down everything I'm seeing, and most importantly, like engagement, things like that. But if the timing lends itself right, I'll ask the teacher, hey, can I chat with you for a second? I'm like, hey man, that was really good. Here's what I saw. This is what I want to give you credit for. Am I missing anything? And nearly 100% of the time, this is what we're going to do when you leave. They so want you. It's a snapshot. Our evals are like a tenth of what our teachers do. And it's like one of those things. How do you critique that when you're only seeing so little? So it's the things that you see, the things that you don't. I said, okay, if there's something that I'm missing, a lot of them give me a follow-up email. When you were gone, this is what we did afterwards. It helps. It helps in itself in writing it. It helps in itself with the conversation afterwards. And I think I think the most important part that goes along with the relationships and stuff, and the things that we're really trying to hammer home, is this concept of you have to be open and vulnerable for this feedback. You got to read the room. And if a teacher comes in and you can tell they're just not there. They're not having a good day or something like that. It might not be the time. And I mean, you really got to take that into consideration, because I know if I'm doing this with my principal and she'd be like, hey, Mike, do you mind if you come in? I'd be like, all right, yeah, I get myself prepared. Maybe I'm about to hear something that I don't want to hear, or maybe I'm about to hear. You have to have that open-minded kind of concept and really, hone in on the relationship piece and be vulnerable and open for that feedback too.
That's some good stuff there, Mike. I was taking notes all over on that one. Thank you for those quotes, man. That was great. Kevin, end it on you.
Oh, wow. Thanks. After all that, you guys are amazing, by the way. A couple notes that I've been taking. That trust issue is amazing. That's so important, because they got to trust that that you're building instead of tearing down, just like Jeff said. I think I read somewhere about after the questioning is done, there should be an action plan to follow up. That is also most important. That builds that trust, that they know that you're not just flying off the gums being this know-it-all guru of their classroom. So I thought that was important. Yeah, you got to have that accountability. And, hey, check up on them. Did you ask the right question that made a difference later? If not, quit asking that question. I got a friend on Twitter, Joe Ferraro. He is a master at questioning. I don't know if you guys follow him. Look him up if he does. He asks questions to teachers and coaches, assistant principals, and principals, and anybody else who wants to ask better questions. He asks questions like, okay, so if you're sitting in your room and you got all of the supplies that you need, all of any kind of resource that you need, what is it going to look like next time? And that leads to the bigger conversation of, oh, well, then how do you know those children know what you want them to know? And so it leads them, once again, it goes into that ownership and accountability for the teachers, and gives you the opportunity to serve those teachers, to get them the resources that they think they need. So that and all of everything that you guys already said.
Before we go back to the master of ceremonies, AJ, listen, you guys are rock stars. What I'm hearing, you've got that it factor from your position. A couple things that I'd leave you with is this. The evaluation process is a tool. Don't ever forget that. The greatest gains you're going to get is through your mouth and conversations. Okay. We know we have to do those evaluations. Okay. I love the fact of having sidebar conversations about what we see. And I use the evaluation as a barometer. Okay. Student engagement, enthusiasm, well-written lesson plans. Those things are all things that can be taken care of. And Jeff, you hit this on the head. Time. If there's something you're going to say something to a teacher, the initial reaction for anybody when they're not perfect in their own mind is to kind of stumble and try to make an excuse. Come back 24 hours later. Come back afterwards. When's a good time to talk about this? If you do that, you're going to gain respect, and you're also going to gain the trust of those teachers that you're working with. That's all I have. Chris?
Yeah, Dean, I'm going to have to go first next time because you talk about the same stuff I want to talk about.
That's what happens when we work together for so long.
It's because we're on the same page and we're dialed in. And I think that where I'm going with this is, in order to really refine your craft and get stronger. If you're a relationship-based person and you really want to increase the instructional, pedagogy side, or vice versa, you want to surround yourself with others who are stronger in that area. And you want to build a culture in the building where teachers aren't just looking for feedback from admin. You want to build a culture in the building where the teacher is looking down the hallway, or they hear something down the hall and they're curious. A few years ago, Dean and I created a document for sharing lesson plans. And it was a great dynamic document. Now, was it well loved by the teachers in the building? Absolutely not. But what it was a common format, and it was structured in a way that week one, all teachers put their lesson plans in and we could sort it by content area. Week two, same thing, all the way through the year. And then guess what happened on year two? They could refer back to that for pacing, for other ideas, add resources into it. If they're going to keep the same lesson plan, but they needed additional bells and whistles put in, they would seek out from a colleague. It was a great tool. Then, of course, COVID hit and out the window. But knowing that there are other experts in the building who have ideas is really hard to get folks into a cycle of performance and engaging. So the more that you can enculture that belief system with feedback from colleagues, the stronger the entire organization is going to be, and keep moving forward.
Thank you, gentlemen. So that's it. You had almost an hour of a mastermind group here with some fantastic APs from across the country. Ryan, Charlie, Jeff, Mike, Kevin, and of course, Dean and Chris. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I got some great notes. Hopefully out there, if you're listening to this, you got some great notes. Special shout out to Hannah, Mr. Brent, Josh. Of course, Josh is here making comments. Antonio, we have AP, Carrie Porter, Tracy. Guys, thank you so much for the comments. I know there's so many other people out there. Trevor's out there. Thank you. We're going to be back in a couple of weeks on a Sunday night, and you'll be hearing from us again for the new mastermind, some new information. We are looking forward to really doing this every other week for you. So we'll put it out there on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you are. Find us, follow us. Make sure you are in this conversation. If you want to be part of this conversation, send us a direct message, especially to these guys that Unlock the Middle. They'll take care of you. Thank you, everybody. Great night. Have a great 4th of July.
Hey, be well. Happy Independence Day, everybody. AJ, you rocked it. Mike, Jeff, Charlie, Ryan, Kevin, awesome job this evening. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Be well. And we are heading out of here.